Hi, everybody, Will here with this week's Coach's Corner, brought to you by Canine Chronicle TV and Pro Plan. Let's listen to Pops for the next 15-20 minutes.
Coach's Corner with Will Alexander and George Alston. Brought to you by Pro Plan and Canine Chronicle.
Hi, everybody, Will here with another edition of the Coach's Corner, and we have the coach himself. Hey, Pops, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Almost my birthday. Almost 85. I'm
85.
still kicking.
Wow, I was there for your 80th. Wow.
You, you,
All right, so
you-
what's up today?
okay, we got a bunch of questions that came in on problems that people have on the ring, and it all stems from their training. And and also too, you have to think out of the box. Now, one of the problems is um, somebody is showing a breed that has to have their ears up and their tail up at the same time. And they get into the ring, and the dog's got his ears pinned back. Maybe it's a Sammy or an Akita, and they got their tail down. So, how do you hold the lead, put the ears up, do the tail, and it all goes back to training. You have to train your dog to look. Now, when I would take a dog in to be shown, I would take him out into a field and I just sit and watch him. I sit down, smoke a cigarette, of course, and I would watch this dog to see what would interest him. And if I couldn't find anything, and I would do this for a week, a couple of times out in the training yard. You got to find what is interesting him and then to get him to look. What I would do is I would uh, take a pet rat that I had and I put him in a cage and I let the dog look at this
You had a
rat.
pet rat?
Yes, it was called a training rat.
I know George Ward gave me the same advice with my wire fox terrier. So if he had one, you probably had one too.
Okay. So we had this rat, and we'd give him a code word to look for this rat. And I'd have somebody pull this rat in the cage across the field and say, "There's a rat. Look at the rat." So when I'm in the ring, I actually use the word ratatouille,
Ah,
and I would set the Akita, and I showed a lot of Akitas, and of course we did it with boxers. I learned this from some of the old boxer handlers when I was a kid. But you would set the dog up, you hold the lead, hold the tail, and you say ratatouille, and the dog looks at the and picks his ears up, and he
no,
looks at.
I believe that. 'Cause I've done that with squirrels before because I have dogs out here that they chase squirrels. So when I lose them in the ring, I'd be like, "Where's the squirrel? Where's the squirrel?" And
Yes,
they-
absolutely. Now something has come up that makes it much easier for owners that they don't have to go out and get a pet rat or a pet squirrel or something like that. You know, is they have barn hunt competitions, and they have to go and find the rat in the barn. And this is the greatest thing for getting a dog to learn to look for something that they can't see yet. And you, if you have a terrier, you can go to ground competition, but it's not as good as a barn hunt. So go and get uh, into a barn hunt situation.
and there's
And
lots of them available. You see that
there's a lot of
advertised for them all the time. So.
clubs that do it. There's a lot of clubs that do practice. they don't have to, maybe your breed is not eligible for competition in a barn hunt, but you can go and practice a barn hunt. Anyway, you got to find something that your dog likes and then you use a code word for him to look at it. Okay. Second of all, we have a short person that's showing a breed like a whippet that can be shown on the ground, in the on a ramp, or on a table.
I don't think they're on the table anymore, but yeah, I think they're
But
mostly
they are
ground.
eligible to do them on the table, and some of the old time judges are still doing whippets on a table. But how does a short person put a whippet on the table? They can't get their arms around it to pick it up, to put it on the table. And so there was one person said, "Can I bring a chair in?" And the dog jumped up on the chair and then jumped up on the table. Well, if you remember, uh, when you go to put a Yorkie or a Maltese on the table that has a hair hanging down, you run your hand down through the back of the dog, so the dog is laying on your forearm with your hand on the chest, and it's not messing up the hair. And you pick them up and you hold them by the head or by the neck, but you're actually, the weight is on your hand. You pick them up and you put them on the table. Well, you could do that with a whippet too. Now you practice this as a home, but your whippet is actually laying. You push your hand all the way through underneath, and then your hand is on the chest, and the dog is balanced on your forearm. And that way, the short person can pick the dog up and put it on the table. But be sure you practice it so that your dog is comfortable with you on your hand. You also
You
may
and I
have,
both have to practice that.
but
You and I
but
both have to practice that.
yeah, but also too, you also have to maybe go to Gold's Gym and work out with your left hand if it's a fat whippet or something like that. But it works with all breeds, so you can try that. All right. The third thing that we have is we have a lady that's got a Bichon that as a young puppy and everything, it did very well in the ring. And all of a sudden, the dog gets to be 15, 18 months old, and he becomes excited on the dogs in the ring, and he doesn't move right. He goes too fast. He goes zigzaggy. He's more interested in the dogs. Well, part of it is the dog has become a man. He now is looking for a sweetheart, and and he's not really sure which one is a female, so he doesn't care. He's looking, but anyway, he goes too fast. You can't control him in the ring. Well, I had an English Springer that had the same thing, and Sally Lynn's private stock. And when I started him, I could not control him in the ring whatsoever. And I was about ready to send him home. And your old boss, Bobby Stebbins, a great dog man, and one of the best mechanics that ever walked this earth. Um, he said, "George, take your dog and just take him for a walk every day, and walk a mile or 2 miles with him." And of course, I didn't have the time to do that, so I had my assistant, the great David White, God bless his soul, who left us too early in his life. He walked that Springer every day, 10 times around my property. I had 6 acres, and he walked him around every single day. I was able to get that dog to show on a drop loose lead. and not pull. And he ended up winning 20 to 30 Best in Shows, won the Quaker Oats Award. Second at Madison Square Garden in the group. He went second in the group 3 times. He turned out to be a great show dog, all because of Bobby Stebbins making that suggestion. I suggest she do this with her Bichon. Take him for a walk for a mile every day. And when he gets out in front of you, just do a quick obedience about turn. When he gets 3 feet in front of you, just turn around and go back the other way. And then when he gets out in front of you again, turn around and go back the other way. And when you do that over a period of time, he starts to watch your legs and he won't go any further than a foot or two in front of you on a loose lead.
And dogs thrive on structure, so that's good advice. So.
And the thing is, if you do this and don't talk to him and you do your turn, don't yank him on the lead, don't let your hand move, you just turn and go. He doesn't blame the pulling on the lead to you. He blames himself because he's not watching your leg. And then you could use this in the ring, and then but it's going to take you as long to train him to do it as it took him to get where he is. In other words, if he's only been misbehaving for a month, it'll only take you a month to train him. If it's been 3 months, it's going to take you 3 months for you to train him. So remember, it always takes you as long to undo something as it took him to get there. Also, while we're at this, one of my pet peeves is handlers that spend their time training their dogs to show the way they show dogs. And a good handler, and there's somebody from up in Canada that was a great, great handler doing this, is you adjust the way you show to your dog. In other words, don't make your dog adjust to you. You adjust to your dog.
Firm
And
believer. Yeah.
and it's this young fella from Canada called me about this, and I talked to him, and he became wonderful at this. And he never showed 2 Irish setters exactly the same way. He never, and I won't mention his name because
Might go to his head, so don't do
it
it.
might go to his head, and then right, but you have to learn about your dog, adjust your handling abilities to your dog, and your dog will always respond to you because he now, okay, my person understands me. You have to understand dogs are folks, and you have to get them to understand. Okay, that's enough for my uh, talking. I would like to mention one of the greatest jobs of presentation of a dog on a loose lead I have ever seen in my life. It was done by Mr. Kaz Osaka at Westminster Kennel Club this year. In that Best in Show ring, it was absolutely fantastic. The way those two worked, it was a team, and Kaz was fantastic. That dog started to move away from him a little bit. He did not move his hand to pull the dog back. He allowed the dog to come back on its own. It was I sat there with tears in my eyes that the job that he did and the way those two worked together on a loose lead, it was I would love to have everybody watch that, and that's what they should, try to
Yeah.
achieve in the showing of a dog.
New York, it was wonderful. New York magical moment. It was just
Oh,
beautiful to watch.
it was fantastic. It was, and it was I called Kaz on the phone, and, I thought he was gonna cry, but when I told him what a great job that he did and everything.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful
Yeah.
job, beautiful
Yes, it
performance.
was, and people ought to go back and look at that, and if they are gonna train a dog to go on a loose lead and go and if you remember, Kaz always showed poodles on a tight lead,
So
but
later on, he got you. It depended on it depended on the
he
dog.
learned to adjust to the dog, and that
Yeah,
is a prime example. He went best in show with a poodle on a tight lead, what, 10 or 15 years ago. And then he comes back to Westminster again and shows it totally different on a drop loose lead. That was magic.
sure was. Sure was.
That's all. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, Pops. And that was a wonderful performance, and we're sorry to see it's over. All right, George. Until next time.
Okay.
Thanks, George. Another great episode. And if you have any questions, send them our way, and we will do our best, or George will do his best to answer them. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.